Good morning, Dan and Amy. Well, we're just a couple months from an election, and so Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump in a dead heat, and it's time to go back to the fundamentals for Hillary Clinton, and that means charges that she is a victim of sexism. Some of those charges are without foundation, and other charges are also without foundation. Here's the first one about smiling.
Hi, good morning. Secretary Clinton, you've been criticized by the RNC for your demeanor last night, that you were too serious, that you didn't smile enough. Can you react to that? And also, you suggested that there is a double standard. Do you think that you're treated differently in this race because you're a woman?
Well, I'm going to let all of you ponder that last question. I think there will be a lot of PhD theses and popular journalism writing on that subject for years to come.
Yeah. Despite the fact that the phrase angry white male has become anodyne through overuse in our culture, Hillary Clinton is the only candidate who's ever been advised to smile more. Hardly. It's kind of smacks of desperation, like her claim that ISIS is rooting for Donald Trump. And then there's this story she told to Humans of New York, which is a blog featuring interviews done on the streets of New York, about taking the LSAT in the entrance exam for law school,
Right,
in a big classroom at Harvard, and being pilloried rhetorically by men in the testing room who suggested that, quote, you don't need to be here, quote, there's plenty else you can do, quote.
Did anybody tell her to go back into the kitchen?
No, and then
Go home and take care of your man?
Not that she recalls, but she does recall that one said, if you take my spot, I'll get drafted, and I'll go to Vietnam, and I'll die. I think some enterprising reporters should perhaps follow up on this story that smacks of sniper fire in Bosnia and see if we can identify some of the people who were in that testing room, including the friend that she supposedly went to take the LSAT with.
Her girlfriend?
That story sounds...
It's a little bit of an exaggeration in my mind.
Well, I think it just sounds very contrived, including how she characterizes the people that were jeering at her, how she describes what they said, the words she used. The words that, I don't know, guys don't use.
Right.
They don't talk
Especially
like that.
when you're taking your LSAT. Please.
It's a bit bizarre, but this is the cloak of victimization that she is donning now because she wants to remind everybody that she's a woman, as if we didn't know. Well, speaking of enterprising reporters, we're happy to be joined again by such an individual. He is Bret Baier, host of Fox News Special Report, 5 p.m. Chicago time, Monday to Friday. And now
he gets to work 6 days a week.
That's right. It's about time they put him to work over there. Special Report Sunday with Bret Baier. This is going to run starting this Sunday at 7 p.m. Chicago time. And we'll go through the November 8th election to provide additional election coverage. Bret, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, good morning. Excited about the show. We're going to kind of wrap up the Sunday shows, look ahead to the week. As you guys know, there's a lot to cover. Yeah,
and you've got an exclusive tonight with Jay Johnson on your special report program in advance of the anniversary of 9/11 on Sunday.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things to talk about, not only the evolution of the threat of terrorism over the last 15 years since 9/11, but also, issues that are heavy on the campaign trail, immigration, deportation, the Syrian refugees, being able to screen them or not screen them, and what exactly is happening on the border. So we hope to get to a lot of that tonight with Secretary Johnson.
Are you going to ask Secretary Johnson what Aleppo is?
Yes.
Man, Gary Johnson had a different Johnson, had a different take on that. I think, listen, he bounced back, he apologized, but it was not a good moment for the Libertarian candidate. And, he's trying to get to 15% to get on that debate stage, and I don't think he's going to get there. Yeah,
that's that yesterday, or that exchange on Morning Joe certainly not going to help. Speaking of the debate, so we had this first joint appearance, if you will, between Trump and Hillary on Wednesday night, talking about national security issues. And it leaves one wanting a little bit. There were mistakes made on both sides. Hillary, this is supposedly her area of expertise, given her years of service. She doesn't know that we have troops in Iraq and Syria on the ground. And, Donald Trump continues his rhetorical niceties with Vlad Putin, probably neither one helping themselves too much.
Yeah, you're probably right. I think Clinton, it's interesting. She had to come out the next morning. I think the Clinton campaign clearly signaled that that they had more to clean up from that forum, and so she did what she has been loath to do, which is a press conference. The first one, she's had a couple press gaggles, but the first one in 270-something days. And she wanted to say, when I said ground troops, I meant large numbers of combat troops, and I'm supportive of special forces and trainers and all this stuff. So it's kind of like the definition of what is, what is ground troops. And that's interesting. Donald Trump, I think he still has to get over the bar of people saying, can he be commander-in-chief? But he has the whole change thing going for him. Because, this administration has a lot of hotspots around the world where they're directly tied or their policy has affected it directly.
But do you think he's insulted some members of the military? I mean, during that forum, he gave really, had some harsh words for military generals.
Yeah, he said the generals have been reduced to rubble. He didn't say it in an eloquent way, but Pence then had his own cleanup yesterday and said, what he was meaning to say was that the Obama administration's decisions have essentially emasculated these generals. They have reduced them to rubble as far as their leadership. And Pence kind of did his own cleanup, much like Clinton did with that press conference.
Yeah, and I mean it's one of these things where if they were better at making arguments, you wouldn't have so much cleanup to do as you're describing. I mean, for example, look, some of these generals are wrong all the time. I mean, I respect their opinions, I respect their expertise, but they've been wrong in the past, and some of these generals succumb to political pressure too. I mean, that's just the reality. Just because somebody has 3 or 4 stars on their lapel doesn't mean they're infallible. And so, it's just a different conversation if you provide a little more context.
Well, not only that, but you could make the argument, a candidate who was steeped in some of the military stuff that's been going on, that the rank and file, the soldiers on the field, the commanders who are out there on the battlefield will tell you that this administration has not promoted guys who have been on the front lines. And we have a lot of them with a ton of experience now after a lot of deployments, and yet they're not the ones that get elevated to the highest positions in the flag corps. So I think, there are a lot of arguments to make that the military is very upset about this administration's activities, but Donald Trump hasn't made those or hasn't chosen to make
Right, and he could have also done a little bit more invoking. I mean, he did mention it, but of the 90-odd military leaders who have endorsed him, and make some reference to, I'm not talking about generals writ large or military experts writ large. I've got people that are supporting me. She's got people that are supporting her. We have different philosophies on military readiness. And frankly, go back to the speech he gave Wednesday morning at the Union League Club in Philadelphia, where he, outlined some detail, put some meat on the bones there of national security and military preparedness.
Yeah. You could also go around the globe and say what's happening now. I mean, for an administration that says the wars are over, that they have put 400 more troops, adding to the 4,600 on the ground in Iraq. They have added 300 special forces finally to Syria, but that's, according to everybody in the military, very inadequate to help. You have situations that are kind of exploding. You have this failed rescue in Afghanistan that we're hearing could have happened 3 days earlier, but it was stopped at the White House because they couldn't approve the mission. So all of these missions are being approved, micromanaged from Washington.
Now, during the National Security Town Hall on NBC, Hillary Clinton, I was surprised that nobody in the audience asked her about the smashing of her Blackberries. Were you surprised, too, that never came up?
Well, I mean, she did get a lot of email questions, and a lot of the Democrats and the Clinton folks were very upset about that. But you're right. I mean, that is a glaring thing that politically is a problem for. I mean, you could say you're transparent, but then why do you hammer 2 BlackBerries to destroy them? You can't find 11, and the laptop's lost in the mail.
Well, what do you think of this? So this is an issue that's going to dog her through the duration of the campaign, clearly, especially Julian Assange saying he's got 100,000 pages more of Clinton documents to release. But what do you think about the story we mentioned at the top here, this interview she gave to Humans of New York, where she tells the story about her LSAT? I've never heard that story before. And, I mean, do you think that merits follow-up to make sure that it's truthy? Or is this just kind of an ancillary thing? Because it seems to me, coming out of what she said on the tarmac there at the outset of that press conference, that she's going to be, feminist Hillary again, and this is, a woman being treated differently than a man in the political arena.
Well, I think it's worth a follow-up, and I think that, a number of stories are worthy of follow-up once, especially when they're told a couple of times on the trail. I will say that, on the other side, there are a lot of stories that Donald Trump says that need to be followed up on, too. And,
yeah.
And if we did all the follow-up, we wouldn't have any more reporters.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. All right. He is Bret Baier, the host of Fox News Special Report, Monday to Friday, 5 p.m. Chicago time tonight. He's got the interview with Homeland Security Director Jay Johnson. And starting Sunday and running through November 8th, the November 8th election, 7 p.m. Chicago time, it's Special Report Sunday with Bret Baier. Bret, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
I think what he was trying to say was have a great weekend.
Yes, exactly.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.